You'll learn valuable tools that will help you grow as a leader in your respective councils, units, or regions. Before we get started, did you know that just by participating in this webinar, you can qualify for that special and well coveted leadership development pin? What do you need to do? You need to attend at least 6 webinars or view them. Absorb the knowledge that's shared, which is very important. Apply what you've learned in your unit, district, or region and show how you're making a difference. Once you've completed these steps and demonstrated your leadership in action, you'll unlock the exclusive leadership pin uh, award journey. And so it's not just a pin, and I want you to know it's just a symbol of your dedication and excellence as a leader in our PTA community. So now let's dive in. If you have any questions or thoughts throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'm sure our hosts and co-hosts and our presenters will be happy to give some insights on what you're saying. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to ask Kathleen, can you unshare for a second?
Yeah.
Can you unshare?
Mhm.
Okay. And um, our webinar this evening is going to be presented by our past president and guru on PTA, and I finding that I just love being her presence because she gives so much wisdom and how we need to really navigate this role as PTA leaders. But this person is Dana Playton. Thank you very much, Dana. And
Hello.
the other co-host is going to be Kathleen McEnroe, who's a technology specialist for leadership, and as well as she's a immediate past council president over in Plain Edge,
Mhm.
and she is a region
I'm on
officer
the
in her
Nassau Region
region,
Board. Yeah.
Nassau Region Board.
Mhm.
So, we have some heavy hitters here, and I'm just going to join them. I'm going to kind of hang out with them as well. Um, but it is important that you have some people who are really invested in taking the conflict out of PTA. Because you know what? Because if we have conflict, we're not able to do the work. And we're trying to do the work because we got to stand by our mission. And as long as you're trying to do that work and you let other things get involved, it stops you. And who are the biggest losers? The kids. So, but before I go and turn it over to our president, Patty Frazier. We're going to allow her to bring a few words, and then we're going to turn it over to the team, and Kathleen's going to share. We also joined by our DO, Mary Sotomayor. And if Mary, if you have any words you'd like to, oh, she likes to give us a wave. That's good. Um, but we're I'm going to turn it back over to Patty. I'm going to allow her to give us some guidance and give us our send off words, and then we're going to turn it off to the team. As a team, I just want to say, I think I had said for the first slide, Kathleen, for all
Yeah.
of us to read it, I'd like
Yes.
just Dana to read it and then we can talk about it.
Sure.
Because if we all read it, some read slow, some read fast,
Right.
but I'll let Dana read it. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead, Patty.
Thanks so much, Robin. Well, it's a pleasure to be joining you all tonight. I think that the leadership development team this year continues monthly to bring us relevant and important information. I'm here like everybody else because these skills that I know Dana's going to share with us tonight are skills that we can all take into our PTA work. And so I'm really thankful that this is one of our topics that we're working on this year. And it's at the perfect time of year for us to be gaining these skills. So I thank Dana for taking the time to present tonight. And I'm looking forward to hearing everything she has to share.
Thank you. Okay. So Kathleen, you can share your screen and we'll start. And we'll let Dana, like I said, Dana, you can read the first
Oh,
screen after Kathleen shares the
Kelly, why
next
is
one.
it not go? Why is this not
So I
advancing?
do want to say Kathleen and I met, I guess, about a year and a half ago. And we were like fast friends immediately. And we have so much in common, even though we have had different roles in PTA. So we've both been presidents at the local level and council. She's now involved with Region, as I was. I followed a path that I never expected and became president of New York State PTA. So I could see Kathleen also following that same path. And I now sit on the National PTA Board of Directors. And I bring all that up because I have to let you all know that we have needed conflict resolution on every single level, state and national. We are not immune to issues that would fall under the need for some kind of resolution. So that's really important to know that you may or may not be, doing this on your own. It's really also important, and I learned that again as I moved up each level. We need to start every meeting, and I did not do this as a local unit president or as a council president, but as I, progressed, I learned that we need to start every meeting with the mission statement. And so I want to thank Robin and Kathleen for adding this tonight. PTA is a powerful voice for all children, a relevant resource for families and communities, and a strong advocate for the education and well-being of every child. We should start every meeting with this because it reminds us that we are grounded in the work that we do. We are not here because we want to meet our children's teachers, although that's a nice perk. We are not here to make friends with others. That's an even better perk. What we're here for and why we're in the room, why we're around the table, while we are sitting in, a cafeteria auditorium, to hear what is being, shared at a PT meeting. We are here for the children. Robin said that earlier. If we can't get along, if we can't get past resolution, any kind of conflict, then it's not our colleagues and our peers that will suffer, but it will be the children and their schools and their education. So remember, that's what we're here for. And going forward, that's what we're going to, keep in mind.
Kathleen? Share. Next screen.
This is not letting me advance. Great.
Okay.
I don't know why it's not letting me advance. Hold on.
You want to stop and go back in?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm sorry.
Okay. There you go.
Wait a minute, there it
Go
goes.
back.
Sorry.
Okay, there you
I
go.
was just getting it up on my screen just in
Sorry.
case. Okay,
Thank you.
there we go. Okay, so we've really pretty much gone over this. Kathleen and I both, when we chit-chatted a little bit, we all know that you can read, so we're gonna not read the screen, all the words on the screen to you, and just kind of talk about them as we go along. If you have a question that's really relevant to the particular slide that we're on or the points that we're making, and you feel that you can't wait, then please, put it in the chat and we'll address it. If it's something that could wait till the end, that's fine too. We hope to have some time for questions and answers. But we really want this to be more of an open kind of thing. So if you feel that you need clarification or you have a question, please let us know. The perfect of conflict support. Why would we want to address what was going on within our unit? We talked about that already. It is about the mission. It is about the values of PTA, and making sure that your PTA runs smoothly and that your purpose for the work that you're doing is free and clear of any kind of other issues. So we will go through all the slides. We will show you how to put in place the framework to support your leaders. Okay.
These are the benefits of conflict. Should be conflict resolution, I guess. So you want to make sure that you are showing the value of the PTA, the value of training, it also makes you a better leader, to understand how to deal with other people, and develop your own network, and seek out new leaders for the next year or the next slate.
And it's really important when you're talking about learning opportunities because we learn, as we're dealing with conflict resolutions, we're learning how to deal with them in a safe and fair manner. Because as I said, and as Dana had said, and as we all know, that this is all about our kids. And there are little perks that we do these things, but it's a learning opportunity. It's learning how to, when you're dealing with conflict resolution, how we're utilizing the tools that are given to us by PTA to effectively resolve conflict resolutions. Next slide, Kathleen.
Oh, I just want to add that
Oh,
you also want to show new leaders that, conflicts can be resolved, because if they see that there's always infighting within your board, they're not going to want to join. So you want to make sure that, and also if there is conflict, that you're keeping it within the house. You're not, putting it on social media. You're not gossiping to other people about what's happening in your board, because then you will not have new leaders when it comes time for a new slate.
Okay, so go ahead, Robin.
oh no, I was just going to read the screen, but I want you to go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay. Really important before you step in. And, I don't know all of you here today. I do know many of you. I recognize names. I know some of you are in a position that lead your PTA region, unit, or council. But whoever should step in to lead this conflict resolution, it's really important to consider these questions, because sometimes the conflict that is going on is not necessarily PTA related. And because of that, it's not necessarily appropriate to, use your PTA resources to solve this. However, with that said, it doesn't always hurt to not get involved, because, or rather, it doesn't hurt to get involved, because it could be that an outside situation is affecting your PTA. So, think about it. Is this a PTA issue, and should you be involved? If it's something between two individuals, and you can safely get involved, without causing any further conflict, and it's affecting your PTA, then yes, you do need to figure out a way to resolve what's going on. If it's a legal issue, don't touch it. Okay, go to your administration. It could very well be that whatever is going on is something that would need a professional intervention.
I just want to touch upon again, is this a PTA issue? And I'm going to give an example. When I was council president, I was working with one of the units that was in my district, and they were plagued with a lot of different things. And so I was told after the fact about where the principal called all of the PTA leaders in her office or in the conference room, and she had other leaders that were in there, and she started to talk about an issue that was believe it was LGBTQ issue that had absolutely nothing to do with the PTA, because we're PTA inclusive, and we are, and it was really something that was happening that was affecting the school and the school community, but it had nothing to do with the PTA. And so when one of the PTA officers called me up about it, I had to tell her, I said, was this something brought up by the PTA? And she said, no. I said, this is not a PTA issue. If the principal is saying that she's having a problem in effectively managing issues going on in her building, that's her issue. That's a school issue. It's not a PTA issue. And I said, and the next time that should happen, I want someone to say, hey, we're PTA inclusive. This is not us. And I said, and kindly just get up and say, we're going to excuse ourselves. I said, because you don't want to take somebody else's issue, as Dana said, is it our issue? And make it your issue. We have enough. We really have enough. So we don't want to do that. And you want to remember, is it something happening within our PTA? We be involved with it. If not, let's move on.
I'm gonna go to the next slide. Okay. So these are some questions that I think Robin also touched upon, and also Dana, that you need to figure out before you're going to handle it. Is it related to PTA? Is it school or district issue? Is it personal or employment issue? You really need to figure out if it's a PTA issue, because then if it's not, then you need to step away from it. Like Dana said, if it's something, between two individuals that you can comfortably go into and then jump out of and help to resolve it. But if it's something related to the school or the district, that really is not PTA involved, and the school or the district should be handling it. Again, if it's, some sort of employment issue, also not a PTA issue. You just want to make sure that you're helping your PTA, you're helping your students in your school. I was involved in a situation when I first became a PTA leader, that the issue got so heated and involved in the summer that we were not able to have any events for the students. The students suffered for like the first 2 months of school. And it was really heartbreaking, that we had to put off our, beginning of the year picnic, our Halloween party, because we were not going back to the mission of PTA. It was two people on the board who were having issues, and it really brought down the entire, board, almost closed our PTA. Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. Before you get involved, you have to think about these important questions. You may not be the right person to step in. So be honest with yourself and think about the situation. Think about how you're involved with these individuals. If you're too close with somebody, then you're not appropriate to be a part of that conversation, because people will think that you're taking sides. Okay. If you have been at some point a part of this conflict, and it might not have been recently, it could be an ongoing situation. It could be something that somebody could pull out of a hat and say, well, 2 years ago, you and so did this, this, and this. You really have to make sure that you were never a part of the situation, that you are an objective onlooker rather than being part of what has been going on. Do you have a personal stake in the outcome? Like maybe some people, we're not supposed to have our own agenda when we walk into PTA, but maybe you have one. Maybe you just want to see the resolution lean in a different direction, or in your own personal direction. So if you also think that the right way to solve it, or the right way to do things, and that right you could see is in quotes, because just because it's your way doesn't mean it's the right way. So we really have to be cognizant of all of these things. You have to be objective. If you're going to be the one who is going to step in to work on this conflict, you cannot be a part of it. You cannot have your fingerprint on it, your toe print on it. You cannot have been involved in any which way. And so if you are being bullied to get involved, that is not going to be the appropriate way to deal with things. It is not going to have the outcome that will benefit your PTA and the children if somebody is pushing you in a particular direction. So if you feel like there are people that are bullying you into get involved, then you're not the right person. I will tell you that we have had issues in the state with individuals who try to push things in one direction. And And I only say that because honestly, we have no issues in the state, but there's always something. There's always a bump somewhere by someone. And I tell you that because if it's happening in your unit, it happens every year. Excuse me, everywhere and every year, as a matter of fact. So I don't want you to think that you're living in a bubble. And that's why we're really great resources when you need them. Kathleen and I, went over all the slides today to talk about, who was going to talk about what. And the two of us wanted to also remind everyone that what goes on in your unit, your council, your region, the state, national PTA, we're all human, but there is a hierarchy to consider. So if you are dealing with something in your unit that you need to have some help with, go to your council, go to the council president, see if that council president can give you the resources and the advice and the guidance and the assistance that you need. If you feel like that's not helping, or maybe, the council could be involved in this conflict as well, and that's not going to be, a good thing to get involved with then. Now you can go to your region director. So if you live in Nassau and Suffolk, they have their own regions. If you don't know what region you're a part of, you can easily go to the website and find out what region you're a part of. Go to your region director. It is not appropriate or helpful to you, to be honest, to go straight to the state or to national PTA. The state will refer you back to your region. National will refer you back to the state, and so on. So really keep it in small as you can until something happens that you really do need the state. And we've seen those kinds of issues as well. So, please remember that if this is above your pay grade, if you feel like this is just too much for you to handle and you do need assistance, then be honest with yourself. Are you the person to step in? If you're not, find someone in your unit or region, blah, 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 to help you. If it's above their pay grade as well, then you can go to state. But follow that proper order of things, that proper hierarchy. That's how you're going to get the most help and assistance that you need. Kathleen?
And especially with the region, they probably don't know anybody in your unit. They would, if you're not able to go to your council president, the region would be so, objective because they don't probably live in your district, and they would, be able to see it from an outside perspective.
As a because we all wear a variety of hats. I'm an associate director, and we're dealing with an issue in regards to one of the units within the region. And I just found that by working with the region director and myself, because we know we have no vested interest in the situation, working together, we were able to mitigate the situation and somewhat resolve it. And actually other things came out because of our involvement. So as Dana said, because a lot of us serve on a lot of different capacities, and we just feel we should just go right to the state, and it's not the state's role. It is important that you understand the way things go. If you're a unit, you go to your council. If your council go to your region goes to the state. And again, the region directors are smart enough, and they have the knowledge to know when to bring the next level in. And they really do try to work hard. The region directors and the region officers, they really do work hard to try to resolve the conflict before it gets any further. Because again, as I've said, and I will constantly repeat, that when we get so immersed, and one of the things about conflict resolution, especially when it comes to the PTA, my title, I always wanted it to say taking the P, meaning personal, out of PTA. We get so connected in there that you're not able to move forward. And when we're not able to move forward, little Johnny, little Sally, they're the ones that suffer because we're not doing what we need to do. We're not advocating for them. We're not bringing the enrichment to opportunities to them because we're fighting with each other, which is not good.
Okay. These are some tools that are available to you. The laws and regulations that available to nonprofits, Robert's Rules, um, which is definitely taught in leader training. The bylaws, your units bylaws, your units procedures. We also have the New York State PTA resource guide. Um, Also, you want to listen, bring in a fresh perspective. Have also self-awareness. Like if this is something that it is involving you, or you have some sort of vested interest in it, then you're going to need to step away and then maybe follow that hierarchy, go to your council, unless they have also a vested interest, and then go to region, state. Dana, do you want to add anything?
You know, the one thing that I would add is to um I was thinking about this earlier today that I wish this was on the slide when I was reviewing them. Um, oh my God. See that old age, you're involved all these years and things come and go. It'll come to me. So let's just move on. Yeah.
There are a lot of resources on the New York State PTA website for you to use, but also, you don't have to go this alone. Okay.
Okay. So I mentioned earlier, we never give legal advice. Unless you're an attorney, you don't know the proper advice to give. And even if you are an attorney, it's not the proper way to do things because you're too heavily involved. We don't offer mental health advice. We are empathetic, certainly, but it is certainly none of our business what someone is going through, what someone is dealing with. We don't think, well, you would never say to somebody, I know that, this, and this is on your plate or you're dealing with this, so that must be the reason. That's not who we are. That's not what we do. And any kind of conjecture is certainly inappropriate. We're not solving any problems for anyone. We're not telling anybody what to do. We are simply going to guide them through whatever conflict they have and come to a resolution together. So we are not trained. All that I've done in PTA, I would never presume that I am trained to resolve any kind of conflict because we're all just human and we all go through these things. We can only offer assistance and some guidance. And with that said, because we're not solving anything for any individuals, we're never going to force them in a particular direction. Unless they are breaking the law, we are not going to force anybody to take any kind of action. Patty, I'm going to ask you to just cut in for a quick second because you know what I'm thinking about, and I don't know why. I can't think of what the document is called because it is something that we talk about on a regular basis. Patty, it's something that we just worked on and adopted. There's a template on the website for individuals to sign at the beginning of their term. Why can't I think of what it's called? Code of conduct. Thank
Oh,
you.
the code
Code
of
of
conduct.
conduct.
Okay. You
We
see,
just signed that.
a code of conduct. Thank you, Patty. It is something that we have talked about for a very long time in PTA. It is hopefully to, just kind of, cut that conflict in, right away at the beginning of the school year. We ask people to sign this code. It's all about behavior and your actions during your term. I recommend that you all take a look at that if you don't have a code of conduct in your unit, council, region, etc. It's really important because Kathleen mentioned the last slide about procedures and practices. If you have a code of conduct that's been signed, then you have that black and white document to say, listen, this is something that we have already agreed not to be a part of. Conflict happens between any two people or any group of people, wherever or whoever they may be. But a code of conduct is really important. So take a look at that. I wish I had thought to add that to the slide prior. It was something that just came to me as Kathleen was talking, but I'm ready for Kathleen to take over with the next slide.
Before you go on, I just want to add on in regards to the code of conduct. When you're doing your summer check and you're developing your budget and you're meeting together as a unit or a council to come up with your plan for the next school year, um, this is something you want to talk about your code of conduct. This is something you want to review at this time so that you can again, as things progress and as the year progresses, we can say we all signed the code of conduct and everyone will go back and remember and we review this so that again, we will try to limit the conflict issues as much as we can. I'm sorry, Kathleen, go ahead.
It's important to understand your own biases and perspective, in every situation. Do you have some sort of vested interest in the situation? Think about if you're the correct person to be addressing this. Always be ready to hand off the situation to your council president or the region. And also maintaining confidentiality. Earlier in the slide deck, I talked about not, sharing whatever conflicts with other people, putting it out, definitely not putting it out on social media. Um, you don't want people to get this idea that the PTA is a clique, that there's always an issue, that they they can't handle things, and that really is going to hinder you getting future leaders for your unit. You don't want to take on additional roles that you're not qualified for. Like Dana said, even if you were a lawyer and there was a legal issue, that really would not be appropriate for you to be stepping in to that, because you're too close to the situation.
Okay, so we're going to start strong. We're going to pick up on what's going on around us, and we're going to try the best we can to nip any kind of major conflict in the bud immediately. That doesn't always happen. It's not always possible. We're all human. We all have different perspectives. We all look at things through a different lens. We have our own lens that we look through. We try to imagine what somebody else is thinking about. You can't do that. You can't make presumptions. You can't assume anything because we all have our own points of view. So with that said, however, you want a quick response. You don't want it to linger. You don't want anything to fester. The longer it goes on, the slower that your reaction is, the harder it will be to get through this conflict. So what are we going to do? First of all, we want to be proactive. If we're reactive, that makes the situation worse. I'll be honest, because I feel like I'm always learning and growing. It doesn't matter where you lead, what level that you're leading on, there's always room for growth. And I honestly feel like I am learning and growing every day. I mentioned earlier that Kathleen and I have become fast friends. We're in different places in our PTA journey, but I learned from her, and I'm really impressed by her as a leader. And so it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, we're always learning and growing. And I say that because I will be honest, my friend Patty, who was here, she's a president. She was treasurer when I was president of New York State PTA, and she will tell you that I can be reactive. That's not always a good thing. It's not a terrible thing, but I have learned over the years to be more proactive before something gets to the point where I'm going to be completely reactive. I need to think first. I need to listen to what other people have to say. And then I have to make sure that I know that I'm being heard and that everybody appreciates and values that I am letting them be heard. Because the second that you have people around a table and you're sharing things and issues may escalate, it is very, very important to let each individual know that what they have to say is justified, is valued, and we're not just listening to them, but we're hearing what they say. If people know that they've been heard and they've been able to voice what they're going through, what they've been thinking, what their opinion is, it's much easier to resolve what's going on around the table when it's calm, when you're collected, when you're listening, when you're not reacting. Really important. If you are the one who is leading that conflict resolution, document things. Write down what people have to say. Write down the things that they have heard. Write down the things that you have heard. If you document it and you go through all the proper steps to do something like this, at the end, you should be able to come up with some kind of resolution. So you're going to set up a single point of contact. If you're the right person to help solve this conflict, then you're the single point of contact. And you want to make sure that everyone around the table understands that. Because if there is something going on around the table, and then you leave the table, you leave the room, it's the proverbial table. You don't actually have to be sitting at a table. But what goes on in that small group interaction, if people start taking it out of that solution area and you don't have a single point of contact, it only adds fuel to the fire. Okay, it continues to escalate. You're not going to get anything accomplished, or you're not going to get anything resolved if you don't have one person trying to manage the situation. So, for instance, and Kathleen and I were talking about this earlier. She experienced something a number of years ago. And it got to the point where the president was above of New York State, that being
Yeah.
himself.
That
This
was you.
individual sent emails, copied everyone that he or she could think of. Okay. They decided to include everybody, thinking that that was going to help. That did not help. That was not something that I'm trying to think of a good word for this. It wasn't pleasant. It didn't help the situation. It really fanned the flames. And it also put people in a very uncomfortable situation. Those people who are not involved don't need to be involved. Those people can get put in the middle. They can, people can right away assume that they're taking sides. Here's the thing. If you are sending things by email or sending things by text message, let's deal with the issue at hand, with the people at hand, the individuals who are involved. Once you start to branch out and just to copy people, just to let them know what's going on, it just makes things worse. And, the bottom line is we started this meeting with the mission and the importance of the mission. Let's always keep that in mind. It's about the mission. It's not about how much more conflict you can really, turn things into. So in finding out what's going on, you're going to ask questions. You're not going to tell people. You're going to listen to what they have to say, listen to their answers. I then would sum it up. And when you do that, when you repeat back what you've heard, people feel that what they've said has value. They know that you've internalized it, that you've listened. If you ask loaded or leading questions, you're sending it in a direction that you don't need to be sending it to. We talked about that in the beginning. Do you have skin in the game? Yes, you have skin in the game. Do you have an interest in how this is resolved? Yes, you have an interest, but it's not going to be resolved the way that you personally want it resolved. You're just there as that facilitator, that the person who is oh gosh, I just lost it. You're there.
Mediator.
Yes. Yes, I was going to say that was one of the words in my brain swirling around, but the one I wanted is gone. And again, if you're continuing to do PTA when you get to an old age like I am, that's to be expected. So please have grace. Yeah, you're just there to maybe you're doing some kind of intervention. You're just there as the facilitator. Kathleen.
When you are listening, you want to make sure that you are remaining neutral, that you are not reacting, that you are listening to all of the different sides. You're asking questions, but as Dana said, not leading questions. Um, you really want to find out what they want out of the situation. Like, why are they taking it so far? Like, what are they trying to gain out of this? Um, ask clarifying questions. Also, definitely take notes on the situation, anecdotal notes, if you want to handwritten notes, type them up, keep them somewhere to memorialize what was spoken about, definitely date it to make sure that you can refer back to it. And if you have to go to the council or go to the region, you can report to them, what has happened. You met on these dates, summarize what has happened. So you're able to fully pass it on when you need that extra support.
Um, so, some of these slides, you can see that they're kind of repetitive, but it's really important that when you get involved with something like this, that this information gets, you know, is understood. We have all been in situations, they may even not be PTA related, but we've all been in situations where something has arisen and you need to get involved. So even if it's just as a parent and you're trying to resolve the conflict under your own roof, right? You have children that will even accuse you of having a favorite child. And how do you resolve that? So here's the thing, right? You're going to take your kids, you're going to put them, separate them, and you're going to have a conversation with them. It's the same thing with trying to resolve conflict around the PTA table. You don't want to set anybody off. You don't want anybody to think you're playing favorites. You don't want anybody to think that, when you walk away, you have been dishonest or untruthful. So when you start, whatever it is you need to do, you're going to start by asking unbiased questions. And again, we have been repetitive in some of these things. But these unbiased questions are really important because you don't want anybody involved to see that you may be showing some kind of bias or some kind of favoritism. If that should ever happen, then going back to practically slide one, you are not the appropriate person to be dealing with this conflict. And so it's this circle, it's this cycle of what's happening and are you the person to be involved? Maybe you're not. And that's okay too. Go to someone who you think would be better as an objective person to be leading this resolution. So you're going to ask unbiased questions. They're not going to be loaded. You're not leading anybody in any kind of way. Kathleen said before, you want to ask questions that, they get to the point, they give you all the information that you need, and you're getting the full picture of what's going on. So when we are dealing with situations, we are not going to allow anybody to complain about the other person, about the things they say, about the way they behave. That is not okay. We're just not going to allow that. That is absolutely off the table. That's not going to happen. You could start any meeting by telling the others, no complaints about any individual person. You're not going to comment on somebody's individual personality, whether you like their personality traits or not, whether you think that they have some kind of, issues. That is not what we're here for. Okay, if that's what's causing conflict, that's a personality conflict. That's not a conflict, a PTA conflict. If two people can't get along because they just don't like each other, that's not anything about PTA. And that's not something we're going to solve. It's something that we hope will work itself out. People can agree to disagree. People can have their own opinion. But the second that it starts to interfere with the work that we're doing, then it becomes a PTA issue. But there have been times over the years that I have not cared for somebody else around the board table or somebody else around, the governance team table. That doesn't matter. That's not what we're doing here. We're here for the children. We are here for the mission of PTA. So if the conflict is between two individuals because they don't like each other because of their personalities, that doesn't belong in the PTA room. And that has to be taken out of the room. Sometimes there's conflict in the room, but out of the room, you're the best of friends. And that's great because everybody has to respect. People have their own ways of doing things. People have their own ways of thinking. People may even have their own ways of dressing. People like the shoes that they wear. I mean, I have heard things over the years about a particular person who wore flip-flops in the wintertime. Guess what? That's that's his or her issue. That's not yours. If they don't mind cold feet, what do you care? If they're clean and their feet are clean, what do you care? That's not a PTA conflict. And that has come to the table, that something that needs to be worked through. Okay, so that, I mean, that might be a little bit, a little crazy, but then who am I to say? And that's the next thing. We're not talking about anybody's personal mental health, or not that that's a mental health situation. I apologize. That's not what I mean. But it's just we're not around that table to care about what somebody is wearing on their feet. We're there around the table to care about what we can all do together for children. If we see instances of bullying or harassment, again, if it's not PTA related, it's not appropriate for our conflict resolution. With that said, however, as people who are empathetic and sympathetic and just genuinely care about others and want to see kindness to one another, then bullying and harassment is something that you could possibly help with. But I say possibly because if it gets to a situation that it's really, really bad, I would go to the principal for some other kinds of intervention, or the administrator that works with your group. I'd figure out a way to help. But at the same time, we're not experts on these kinds of things. We're not mental health experts. We really, it's a really tough road to follow, only because we're more and more aware of what happens when we are unkind, when others are unkind. And so we really just have to remember that as leaders, that we are modeling the proper way to do things for PTA, the proper way to show respect and consideration of others. And so if we feel that there's a particular member of our governance team who is breaking that code of conduct, so to speak, then it is time to get involved. But I would seek some kind of professional for some assistance or guidance. It's really hard to take some of these things on our own. But giving advice certainly would be within our realm. I hope all of that makes sense. I just feel like we live in a very sensitive time. And if we take sides and we are indeed partial to some and not others, it really hurts others. And I really think that we have to keep that first and foremost. Sometimes the conflicts that we see are based in some of these issues that are here on the screen, personality don't always mesh together. And so we have to be really cognizant of what is going on in the world right now. And at the same time, do the best that we can to work through the conflict that is PTA related. So keep that in mind, PTA related. Kathleen?
Um, I think we all know what bullying is. We just want to make sure that when we're, dealing with other board members, that we're not taking part in the bullying. The trash talking, I feel like a lot of things these days go right onto social media. Whether there is a name to the post, an anonymous post, that really does add a lot of fuel to the fire. Um, just making people feel unsafe, gossiping about other people, name calling other people. It really just not does not help this situation at all. When you come onto a board with people, you may or may not know them. Um, it's not like you're told, okay, you're the new executive committee, governance team, region. You have to be friends with these people. You're not there to be friends with them. You're there to benefit the children of whatever, school your unit is representing, or council, or region. So you just want to make sure that if you're having a conflict, that it doesn't escalate to the bullying level.
I
Yeah.
also think that it's important that as leaders in New York State, whether you're on the executive board or on the executive committee, when you're serving in the position of leadership, you have to remember that people are looking up to you. And if you're sitting around the table or sitting, or getting yourself involved in trash talk or gossiping, they start to look at you differently. And whether you realize it or not, you may not be the person that they want to resolve the issue because you have shown yourself not to have um, any unbiased opinions. So we have to remember as leaders, and we are leaders, that there are certain things, and I'm not saying that we're Virgin Marys, but there's some things that when someone is being hurtful or gossiping, we need to step away, or you need to say, "Hey guys, that's not really necessary." Even if it's in jest, you have to be responsible enough to be able to say, "Okay, let's put a pin on it." Go ahead, Kathleen.
I'm gonna go to the next slide.
Okay. All right. So here, the problem with bullying is that if we don't stop it, it controls what we're doing and controls the outcome. So I already mentioned earlier codes of conduct. I also wish that I had included at the top of that other page. I'm glad that it's here. If you need a template, there is one on the website, and
Yeah.
it's really excellent. So do we go to 8:30 and 9 o'clock? All of a sudden, I just forgot. We have a few
We'll
more
just
slides.
continue to go. I'm going to go back and I'll let you know when it's time to stop. I'm going
Okay.
to look and see how many slides we have.
Okay, we have like 3 or 4 slides left.
Okay.
Oh, then
But
you're fine. You're
okay,
fine.
I just didn't want to keep people past their time. I want to respect
You're
that.
fine. You're
Um,
fine.
okay, so code of conduct. That's become something that I advise everyone to now have, especially with social media, because social media has invaded, it's become invasive. Now, I say that as someone who loves to put my entire life from top to bottom on social media. And both of Kathleen and Robert are laughing because they are my friends on Facebook. um, I love social media. However, social media is not the place to bring any kind of dirty laundry. A code of conduct will address that. And reminders constantly to people that our personal pages may be personal. However, when you are friends with 1,000 people, it's not personal. And when anybody can pick up their phone and take a screenshot, it doesn't matter if you've deleted it because it will last forever. So do not take your situations to social media. If you have any kind of issue, document it yourselves. And this way we can also use that to, put a pin on any kind of bullying, communication and norms. I think that speaks for themselves. The way that you communicate with others has to be thought about. So a conversation, obviously we can see body language, we can hear you, we can see if you're rolling your eyes, etc. However, if you are emailing or texting, people don't read it in their head the way that you wrote it. You can say, I love this computer. Or you can say, I love this computer, with eyes rolled. But people will just read, I love this computer. And what does that mean? So some people could take it the wrong way. Why don't you love my computer? And all of a sudden we have a conflict because you love your computer, but you don't love mine. So it's just the little things. Sounds silly, but we all know that happens. When you have conflict in your unit, region, council, etc., team building exercises work great. If you can find a wonderful icebreaker by just going on Google, please contact me. I have so many, some that are really great that work wonderfully. It may not solve every single problem, but you'll have fun at least during the process. And if you're laughing together, maybe you'll laugh together again outside of that boardroom, or maybe you'll start realizing, well, you know what, I kind of like that about her or him or they. So be really clear about when your dismissal policies does not mean, walkers go out the cafeteria door and buses 1 through 4 go out, door A, etc. It just means like, at what point can you move on? And is it okay to move on? And then, when things escalate, all of a sudden now you need escalation resolution. So, if we talk so much about, how to keep things at bay. Just keep all those things in mind. Listen, make sure people feel like they're heard, make sure people know that they're valued, make sure that people understand that you don't look through the lens that they do, but you are open to hearing why they look, what they see when they look through their own particular lens. Kathleen?
Yes. You need to, when you're dealing with the conflict, be aware of possible situations. Social media posts, this really has become a major issue. Unit, um, council, region, state, national, everybody's on social media. And, whether you really have to be mindful of making a post or also responding to a post. This is Board of Ed season. So even though this is not really related to Board of Ed, um, you know, procedures with the PTA, your conflict could be you like one Board of Ed member and the other person likes another Board of Ed member who's up for election. Um, that would be a non-PTA issue, but that could cause a conflict with people. You just really need to be mindful of what you're saying on social media. A screenshot is forever. It will follow you. Um,
And you have to be fair and equitable. You can't
right.
invite trustees or potential trustees
Yes.
to come to your PTA meeting unless you're inviting all. I don't know, you can't just say we're going to have one person speaking at this because we're not about politics. That's not what we're about. But you got to be fair and equitable to everyone and to your PTA.
You
I
also
just
don't want to, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to jump in because I love what Robin just said, those 2 words, and I wish that I had thought of them on my own without Robin reminding me. Fair and equitable. Those 2 words just sum up conflict resolution. If you are the one who is facilitating that conversation, fair and equitable. Robin, thank you for that.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
And I think that we need to, the mission statement and also being fair and equitable to all parties is so important. Um, if, several people have the same complaint, let's figure out that situation. Is it, one person who is the issue and several people are having the same issue with one person? Um, then that also may be time to find an outside resource, the council or, your region to start with.
You know what? I'm sorry to
No.
interrupt. Thank you for being understanding. So answer shopping is such a problem.
Hmm.
Um, think about it. We all have answer shopping under our own roof, or between family members who live someplace else. Right? If you don't like the answer that your mom gave, so maybe you're going to go to your dad. And if you don't like, as an adult, even, well, my sister said this, I'm going to go to the other sister. And this way, it's 2 of us against 1. That's not great. It
Right.
happens all the time. So if you have a code of conduct, if you keep your mission in mind, if you think about your unit and the way that it operates, there shouldn't be an open window for answer shopping. Doesn't mean people aren't going to try it, but I babysit for my grandson and his other grandmother also. So we split the week. His father is my son and my daughter-in-law. He's a little young now, but what happens when he sees all four of us all the time and he doesn't like what his parents say. So he's going to go to me. He's going to go to the other grandma. We all now, he's 3 years old. We are all on the same page. We have a constant group text to make sure that we are all using the same words. We're all keeping him from jumping off, the top of the couch onto his, pillows on the floor, like all these little things, because we're not going to give him the opportunity for answer shopping. So what happens in our families, it happens with adults all the time. Just keep that in mind, because it's a really great way to have some kind of catastrophic wedge between people and in your PTAs.
Okay, Kathleen, next slide.
Okay, so how are we going to work this out? Your team could be 2 to 4 people. It should never just be yourself. You should always include somebody else. You should always include somebody else in your communications so that whatever you've told these people in conflict, those individuals also know that there's somebody else involved beside you. So you always have a backup. Um, the president usually isn't involved. Although there obviously are times that the president would be involved. We just don't want it to get to any kind of escalated situation, and then people think the president is not being fair and equitable. See, now I'm using your words, Robin. Thank you. You want to designate a lead, someone who is objective, someone who is not involved, someone who is not the best friend of one of the individuals involved. And then tactical involvement, like how is it that you will be getting involved? What is it that you're going to be doing? You're going to gather and lay out all the facts as each person knows it. And we all know that that's not necessarily the facts, right? The whole he said, she said, she said, she said, they said, that kind of thing. But you're going to gather them all, okay? And from there, now you have to work out an action plan. So what's your action plan? I don't know. What's the action plan? You know what your clear endpoint is. You know what you want to see at the end of this. How are you going to get there? I can't give you an action plan. I don't know the situation. I don't know the conflict. I can tell you though, if you lay it all out and you know what the end result should be, you're going to break it down from there, and you're going to have to try to figure out how to solve that. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes you want to get all of your resources involved. It could be an administrator, it could be a PTA leader that respect and know will, be a good objective guide. And sometimes you just know the situation, you know the people, and you know how you're going to get it solved. My only advice to you is get advice if you need it. Because it can't really give you an action plan. I can't tell you what to do. And, the conflict could be, something as silly as, what color tablecloths should you have at the, parent appreciation dinner. Or it could be something more than that. It really depends on the situation. Certainly there are going to be people who can assist you in helping you determine what the outcome, how to get to the outcome, not what the outcome should be, but how do you get there? Because you have that clear endpoint. Kathleen?
Okay, I think this is really important. Know when you need help. When it has gotten so far beyond you, um, you need to reach out for help. Your council president or, council, region. The region has so many resources for you. to help you. There are a lot of people at the region that can help you, willing to help you. Um, oh, I just skipped that. If it's, something between maybe a recording secretary and a vice president, you would go to the unit president. If they're not able to help you, your council president, your region director, or um, associate within your region, however your region is structured. There are people to help you. You don't need to be losing sleep over this and, have it affect your mental health. There are people and resources that are there to help you. So you don't need to be taking this on all by yourself if it does get very escalated.
I think one of the things I wanted to add is, in what you said, um, we are here as a resource and we get the training. We know when to step in, we know that when to say something, and the reason why Dana, again, a seasoned vet, can come back and just pick this up and speak about it like it's happened yesterday is because these are the things, these are the tools that she has utilized as when she was a unit leader, council leader, and in her New York State PTA leader and national leader. So these are tools that we have that have been created and that that still work. So just know that you're not by yourself. And when you reach out to your region leader, when you reach out to your council leader, they really do have knowledge in how to try to mitigate. And it's not, because, and there's so many opportunities, and as Kathleen said, that are on the website that will help us to help you to get this conflict, because no matter how bad you think it is, we don't want you to lose sight in why you started and what was your why on joining the PTA.
You know, when I was an associate director in Suffolk region, and Sonia, I'm gonna actually call on you for a moment if you are there. Um, Sonia is a past region director, and we offered, and hopefully they still do, Sonia, and that's why I'm asking you, what was called a school of instruction, where if a unit or a council was having a lot of difficulty, sometimes the conflict isn't just between a couple of people, sometimes it's the entire unit. And so a school of instruction means that you would go to your region and they could come to you and do a leadership training, a workshop to help you get through things. Sometimes it's bigger than yourselves, and you just need the guidance, and a simple phone call isn't going to do the trick. So, sometimes venting to someone that you trust is just not going to do the trick. So, Sonia, there she good, great, she is here. Sonia, can you just weigh in on that? As a past region director, not too long ago, did you do that in Genesee Valley?
Yes, yes, we would do that in Genesee Valley. Schools of again, they're, as Dana mentioned, they're targeted trainings that any unit or council could reach out to the region and say, hey, would like a school of instruction on conflict resolution or bylaws and procedures or how to run a meeting. They can be on any particular topic, and basically it's a request for training that the region would come and do at the local level.
Thanks, Sonia. And the beauty of Zoom now, and speaking of Sonia, she taught me all about Zoom, back before Zoom even existed, when it was just like a notion in someone's mind. And I was like, Zoom, who needs that? Well, apparently we all do. And it's phenomenal. It's such a great service that we can use. And so if you need a school of instruction, it's just let your ask your region director. Don't let them know. Just, please ask them and inquire about how to set that up. And then nowadays, it could be done on Zoom. You don't have to get everybody into one room because that's not always easy. And it's so helpful. It was a learning opportunity. It was an opportunity to Just open up the dialogue and start the conversation. So if something is going on in your unit or council, I highly recommend reaching out to the region director and inquiring about a school instruction. With that said, I recommend every single possible training that you can do. The fact that you're here tonight means a lot because that means you are willing to open yourselves up to learning more. And I love going to workshops and webinars, and I very fortunate that I get to do, them on the national level as well. Again, I'm an open book who's always learning and growing, and I learn from new leaders all the time. I don't know it all, don't presume to know it all. In fact, I sometimes I feel like I know nothing, and I really appreciate learning from each other. So please reach out to it says here your unit president, your council president, or your region director, because there's so much out there, and everybody is willing to share their knowledge and expertise.
Kathleen, you want to move is this the last slide? Okay.
Okay. So, I felt like we were taking too long, and then I felt like we were rushing. Like I was getting really nervous about the time. So, I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to thank Robin for asking me to be a part of this tonight. It is an honor and a privilege, and I want to thank her so much for thinking of me. Kathleen, my co-presenter, who I just love and adore, thank you so much for doing this together. And to everyone, thank you for joining us. And Kathleen, Robin, I don't know if you want to share anything, but my heart just is full because you asked me to be a part of this. I want to thank
Well, Dana, I've said I can sit under you. You're a master class, and I can just sit and just listen and learn from you. And I appreciate you with your wisdom because you're always willing to share no matter what the topic is. And I appreciate you. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Kathleen, you and Dana for getting together and you know, conflict resolution, as I'm finding, it doesn't matter what seat I'm in, it's always an issue. So to get these tools, and again, it's so that we can learn how we can best do what we need to do to resolve the conflict so that we can continue the work and the mission that we started. I know that you guys when we first started, we didn't do our special question. So the
Right.
special question, just so for those who are joining us and starting for the award pin. Kathleen, do you want to say what the special question is?
Oh yeah, hold on one second. The special question is,
I'm not gonna give it another thought.
oh my God, where the hell is it?
So while you come up with that, I just want to say that when I first joined PTA, the pins were a really big deal. Just going to the PTA store at events, buying pins and giving pins to each other and to our board members, were like a huge thing. But earning pins, these leadership pins, it was really special. I'm thrilled that you have brought that back. I think it's fantastic. So kudos to Robin and Kathleen, Mary, as the learning, the leadership development team, but Mary Sotomayor, who is their designated officer. I'm also just drinking soda, so I don't know why my word slurred. But fantastic job bringing back the pins because I love pins and I love being able to earn them.
Okay, here is the question. If the conflict is not a PTA issue, what must you do? And the
And I
answer
think we
is
spoke about that in the beginning. So
yes.
if you're looking to answer that, it's very important that you won't know the question until the end of this webinar so that you can go back and look at the webinar again. Because again, this information is so vital and so important. We're not going to give you the answer right now because the answer was already stated. I stopped the
I
Kathleen.
just want to say about Dana. Dana was somebody that I looked up to. She was this lady that was CC'd, the PTA, New York State PTA president, on this horrible email 6 or 7 years ago. And now I'm so honored to be able to work with you on the governance team, to be able to present with you, and to call you my friend. So
Thank you.
thank you
You know,
so
I'm
much.
not going to fit in this little box on the screen soon enough, so I'm going to need two boxes for my head. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. So I look forward to seeing each and every one of you at SLC. Little
Yes.
plug for that.
Yes.
And I know Robin and her team are planning phenomenal workshops, so you'll learn so much. So can't wait.
Look, we can't do it by ourselves. And I think you could say Robin, but Robin doesn't act without without Batman, which is Kathleen and Mary. I just can't do it. And we look so much to Patty and the team, it doesn't start by ourselves, and I'm thankful to have them. And it doesn't look like there's any questions in the chat. It just seems like it's a lot of thanks, and I appreciative of everything that everyone has to say. Patty, do you have anything that you'd like to add before we sign off? You can stop sharing now, Kathleen.
Oh, yeah.
Just to thank you for a wonderful presentation, and the teamwork is amazing, and I'm happy to have been here to be a part of that.
Okay, and Mary, would you want to tap in?
Yes, I just want to take a moment to say, Dana, Kathleen, Robin, this was such a strong and honest conversation. It's exactly the kind of support that leaders need. So I was happy I was able to learn too. Even a seasoned leader can learn a lot of things. Conflict is never a fun part of PTA leadership, but it's something, once we know we have the right tools and the right language and the right resources that you guys shared tonight, you won't be alone. So thank you all for this wonderful webinar.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to give Dana the final words.
I always have a lot of words, but instead, I'm going to give you back your night. My husband is cracking up in the background, and my daughter. They've heard a lot of words from me. In any case, my son and I are looking forward to watching Survivor. So I'm going to say goodnight and go turn the TV on. And again, thanks to everybody for being here tonight.
Good night, everyone. Good
Take
night.
care.
Good night.